Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Look North, our top story tonight. Unfit to live in. Doctors raise concerns about another family in Sheffield whose damp house is putting their children's health at risk.
The damp and bad smells affect all of our health, especially my two sons.
We'll be asking a charity if the standard of emergency housing is getting worse. Also tonight, another day of strike action across our region as teachers take to the picket lines. Leeds United are expected to wave adios to their manager, so who's in the frame to replace him? We'll get the latest from Ellen Road. And we'll meet the community champion from Wakefield, who's got one of the hottest tickets in town.
Well, there's been a lot of cloud around today. This was taken at Flamborough Head this morning. Tomorrow looks a good deal brighter. Join me for that week ahead forecast.
Thanks for your company. First tonight, another house in Sheffield that medical experts say is not fit for a family to live in. You may remember last week we reported that a hospital consultant had written to the city's council to raise concerns about the impact of a damp flat on two young children. Well, now we can reveal that health workers have repeatedly warned about poor living conditions in another home. Sheffield Council has said it's made improving damp and mouldy homes a priority. Tom Ingle has more.
3 months old and coughing in his crib. His family home is damp, mould is growing in bedding and under the carpet. His father Saeed doesn't know where to turn. When we first arrive in their house to film, our camera steams up like it might do at a swimming pool. The walls are stained from repeated cleaning.
It's about 2 years we are living in this house, and the damp and bad smells affect all of our health, especially my two sons. Waters in the carpet.
This is meant to be a safe haven. Saeed worked for the British government in Kabul and came here fleeing the Taliban. As soon as you put your hand on the wall here, you can feel it's cold and clammy. The wood skirting board is even worse, but the real horrors are revealed when you lift the carpet and the underlay. The mould and the damp are there for all to see. And this is a new carpet. Sheffield Council have sent workmen to the house before. The family have been moved out while repairs happen, but problems soon return. Saeed is worried about his 3-month-old and 4-year-old.
I'm worried because I'm thinking a lot about their future. If they're coughing, their problem with the skins, I'm worried about their future. What will happen with them?
Lots of mould and damp here.
Last week on Look North, we featured a very similar story, again in Sheffield. Since we reported on Nakib's case, the family have been offered temporary accommodation. Both instances have been picked up by the NHS. In Saeed's example, a pile of medication bears witness, along with letters from midwives, doctors and health visitors stressing the house is not suitable to live in. One talks about mould affecting breathing. Another says the damp issue needs resolving urgently. If that wasn't enough, paramedics have had to be called and one of Saeed's children, Mustafa, had to be taken to hospital.
An ambulance came to take him to the children's hospital. The children's hospital treated him. After that, I took him to the GP. They all agree, and this is about the house, maybe something in the house, like a virus.
From potential persecution abroad to a life where home can make you ill, Saeed is speaking out on behalf of his children who can't, but suffer the consequences most. Tom Ingle, BBC Look North, Sheffield.
Well, this evening, Sheffield Council have told us that they've now offered the family temporary accommodation while the landlord arranges repairs. They also say cases of damp and mould have increased in the past year. We can speak now to Jasmine Basran from the housing charity Crisis. Thank you for your time. Clearly, Saeed's family are living in a house that is not fit for purpose. It's the second one we've reported on in Sheffield where health concerns have been linked to mould. Is this just a local issue?
Unfortunately, it's not. It's something we're seeing right across the country. People living in really appalling conditions, putting their own lives and the lives of their children at risk. We know in the last 2 years, complaints about damp and mould have doubled. And that's just formal complaints. So people who are speaking out and coming forward. So we know there's so many more people dealing with this that are too scared to come forward.
And what do you put that rise in cases down to?
Well, it's a combination of things, but I think a huge factor is that we have a chronic shortage of social housing supply in this country. We're in a state of housing paralysis. And what that means is that people who don't have anywhere else to go, people who do need to be housed by the council, are being put in housing that is absolutely unsuitable because the councils are arguing they have nowhere else to put people, and where people don't complain, they will just live there. So a really big driver of all of this is that we have a shortage in housing that we have to address to make sure that people can live in safe and comfortable homes.
You talked there about people not speaking out. Saeed is a refugee. The family spoke to last week were also refugees. Are they often at the bottom of the list when it comes to housing?
They shouldn't be. They absolutely shouldn't be. But unfortunately, in our experience, we do see this happening more often to people who are refugees, who have come from other countries. We know, for example, that Black people are 3 times more likely to experience homelessness, and there are elements of discrimination here in parts of the system as well. So unfortunately, we are seeing some of that at play here, and it's absolutely unacceptable, and we shouldn't tolerate it in our society.
Well, we've certainly been reporting more and more of these cases in the last few months. Jasmine, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Next tonight, parents across our region have been forced to sort more childcare as the teacher strike continues. Around half of schools have either closed or partially closed on previous strike days, and it's all because of a dispute over pay. Well, a rally was held in Leeds this morning and Dave Edwards was there.
There have already been 5 days of strike action for teachers in Yorkshire this year. Today was day 6 and an agreement seems as far off as ever. Striking teachers joined up with nurses today for a march through Leeds. Well, after February's strikes, the government made teachers an improved offer of 4.3% from September, plus a £1,000 one-off payment. They said it was fair and reasonable. The union said no. I've been asking teachers why that wasn't enough.
The simple reason is it's not fully funded. You could offer us a 20% pay increase if it was coming out of the budgets that's going towards our students, people's children. That's not good enough for us because it has to be a fully funded increase.
I'm 39 years old. I live in a shared house. I can't afford to live on my own as a teacher.
Some might look at this and say, hold on, the average teacher gets paid nearly £40,000 a year, gets long holidays. That's not bad, is it?
Yeah, well, the long holidays, most of your viewers will know that that actually is quite a myth. Lots and lots of teachers go in their holidays into schools. They're doing marking, they're doing preparation. £40,000 a year, yeah, but if they had had wage rises in line with inflation, that would be nearer £54,000.
Strikes do not add any value, they only cause damage. I think it was a fair and reasonable offer, and crucially and most importantly, it was fully funded, and I think there's been some misunderstanding about that.
Places like this were busier than usual today as the strike left thousands of parents with a childcare headache.
Well, it's more annual leave, days off work. I think these kids have suffered enough with COVID and 6 days of lost education already. We've already done too much.
I used to be a teacher, and I would probably be on strike myself now. And as a parent, it's frustrating, but as a teacher, they must be very frustrated. I know how hard they work. So, yeah, I can see both points of view.
Hundreds of people of all ages took part today with the same basic message, but a few different ways of saying it. More strikes are planned for June or July. Dave Edwards, BBC Look North, Leeds.
Let's talk about Leeds United, shall we? He doesn't look happy, does he? It's all change again at the club as they desperately try to avoid relegation from the Premier League. They're set to sack their manager, Javi Gracia, after just 11 games, and they're in talks with former England manager Sam Allardyce. Their director of football has also left the club today. Let's hear now from Sally Hirsch. She's at Ellen Road for us. Sally's only been there 3 months. What's the latest on this?
Yes, Javi Gracia was only appointed in February, and since then he's won just 3 out of 11 league games. And Leeds are really struggling now. They lost again at the weekend, 4-1 to Bournemouth. And defensively they look really poor. You could see Gracia on the sidelines looking distraught, as were the players. And it's already been one job lost today. We haven't heard yet about Gracia, but we do know that the director of football, Victor Orta, has parted company with the club. He's the man who for the past 6 years has been in charge of hiring and firing players and staff. And on that, we can now hear from the BBC Radio Leeds podcast host on everything Leeds United.
Certainly got a feeling it might mean Javi Gracia is going, particularly with that performance and result, because you just get a feeling, don't you, around a football club when it's heading towards relegation.
I think everybody expects it that Javi Gracia will go, but Victor Orta has brought him in, and at some points Victor, I felt, was always going to pay the price.
So lots more to discuss on that podcast. Definitely worth a listen. It's called Don't Go to Bed Just Yet on BBC Sounds. So who could replace Javi Gracia? Well, it looks likely to be Sam Allardyce. He's the former England boss, and he managed West Brom from 2020 to 21. They did get relegated though. Now Leeds have only got 4 games to turn things around, and it is a difficult time to be a Leeds United fan. We spoke to some of them earlier today to get their thoughts.
Well, it can't be any worse what they've had in the past. Results count, don't they? And they've, like I say, how many goals have shipped in? 23 this April. Horrendous.
They need to sort out whatever issues they've got in the dressing room and then fight like any other team would do on pitch, because at the minute, playing without any fight.
Are you still hopeful?
Oh, we're always hopeful. Daft, but hopeful.
And it's worth noting that Leeds aren't yet in the relegation zone. They are teetering just above it though. They are hanging on by their fingernails, and they do have some really tough games coming up. Man City and Newcastle next. It's going to be an exciting but difficult few weeks.
It really is. Very tense in my household, I tell you. Thank you, Sally. The Black Sheep Brewery has announced it's gone into administration. The Masson Brewery has been making beer since 1992, but have today described the impact of the pandemic and the increasing costs as the perfect storm. Chief Executive Charlene Lyons says that they're looking at options to sell the business, but are confident with a new structure, Black Sheep will thrive. Let's take a look at the local elections now. Speaking ahead of the polls opening on Thursday, the Transport Secretary says the Conservatives can be trusted by Yorkshire commuters. Despite the U-turn decision in 2021 that HS2 would not go to Leeds, Mark Harper said in an interview today that they are still committed to getting high-speed rail services to Leeds. He's still making a decision on whether the current contract for TransPennine should be extended. It's due to expire at the end of the month.
I've listened very carefully to what people have said about the level of service, which is not acceptable at the moment, and no option is off the table. I've got to make a decision thinking about the interests of passengers, which is absolutely at the front of my mind, and that will be when I make the decision, and then I'll announce it in Parliament in the usual way.
So are you planning to vote on Thursday? There are concerns that despite our councils being responsible for services that affect all of our lives, most people just don't even bother. In parts of our region, just a quarter of people chose to vote last year. We're going to pass over now to our political editor, James Vincent. He's been investigating. He joins us now from Barnsley. Are they going to vote down there?
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting question about whether people will turn out. We'll talk about voter ID in a second, but people are always worried about turnout at local elections. It's never as high as it is during a general election, and even during a general election you're getting 50-60% of people voting. That's still 40% of people who are eligible to vote who just aren't turning up. When it comes to local elections, as you say, it's that important stuff that affects people's everyday lives, you know, bins, schools, planning applications, the sort of stuff we get in the Look North inbox that people want us to look into for stories for the programme at 6:30. So we thought we'd go 2 minutes up the road to Athersley, one of the wards there that's got a low turnout. We found Barnsley Bowl right in the middle of the ward there, so we thought we'll go and ask people who've been bowling. Most people aren't interested in local elections. It feels like you're not meant to say stuff like that on telly, but it's true. Less than 50% of people vote in them, and Barnsley had the lowest turnout of all of our towns and cities.
So many people nowadays in this area probably who don't even know where the next meal's coming from. They're worried about paying their gas and electric bills. So yeah, I think that voting in the election is the last thing on the mind, because whoever gets in, they're just not going to trust them.
We are in traditional Labour country. People know that it doesn't matter what candidates are put forward, Labour will always get in anyway. So it's as if they don't need to go out because they know what the result's going to be.
People are turning out to bowl here in Barnsley, but on the whole, they're not turning out to vote. Only 18% of people voted in the St Helens ward here last time out, and that's a problem because everybody gets a council service, but not everybody is choosing it.
That's the paradox, exactly. If you're looking at things that actually affect people's daily lives, local government is the place to be looking. But it doesn't quite have that degree of, I guess, media sexiness.
We know that Barnsley has been the lowest turnout in Yorkshire. Why do you think that might be?
I think a big factor here is partly Barnsley is a relatively poor area. If you're worried about how can I pay the bills, taking time out to go vote is a bit of a luxury item.
The only X that matters on Thursday is the one at the polling station, and if you're not eligible to vote or you just don't bother turning up, are you eligible to moan about the council services you get? So you've got turnout there in St Helens at 18%. It's not actually the lowest ward in Yorkshire. Headingley and Hyde Park in Leeds is actually 14% turnout last time around. City ward in Sheffield was 16%. Experts like Charles, who I spoke to there, tell me that that's because of the student population, and perhaps they're voting in their hometowns rather than where they're at university. But it's always a big concern, and voter ID that comes in this time around will mean that everybody's got to take some photo ID to the polling station, and there will be a lot more people paying a lot more attention to exactly how many people are voting in the local elections this year.
James, thank you. Next tonight, Leeds Dads started when 3 new parents met for a chat. Now, 12 years later, it's become a thriving support group for hundreds of fathers across the city. The charity holds regular events to inspire and help new dads. And this weekend, the founder, Errol Murray, travelled to America to share his story.
I'm Errol Murray, and I'm the founder of Leeds Dads Support Group.
And I'm Lee Sobo-Allen from Leeds Beckett University.
And we're here for the 24th Fathers and Families Coalition of America conference here in Los Angeles. Leeds Dads was set up back in 2011 as a support network for fathers. Since then, we've put on hundreds of events for dads and their kids and gone from strength to strength. So much so that we've been invited to share the secrets of our success. We're just about to get called in. It's about time now. How are you feeling?
I'm good, yeah. Looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it.
Well, the one of our technicians look like they're ready, so we better go in. Into the car space, and you're just about to go into it. Why are you going into my space? Move your car.
I think he walked us through what Leeds Dads was from the beginning, and talked about a lot of the challenges, talked about how he met fathers where they were in the most needed communities.
And I think that's what I gained today, is just a better understanding of some of the things that our dads are experiencing.
All in all, LA's been a great experience, and hopefully we'll be invited back next year.
Hopefully I'll be invited to go with them. Errol, what an experience. Good to see you.
Thanks. It's fabulous out there. They're really excited about Britain taking its own ideas and bringing it to them and sharing what we're doing with what they're doing. A lot of what they're challenged by is very much similar to what we are, which is the idea of dads being anxious, dads being depressed, but also dads being time-strapped, which is the same on both sides of the Atlantic.
So you started Leeds Dads, 12 years ago. How has it changed since then? A lot, by the looks of it.
I think the biggest change is that we started it, it's just a group of us who came together to say how we felt and share how we felt about being dads and the isolation, the challenges, and the joys, of course, and the size of your baby's poops. Who's got the biggest? And we wanted to come together to spend more time with our children as a way of sort of like, if we're commuting, I was commuting to Manchester, it was a way of finding a way to spend more time specifically with my daughter. And I think the way it's changed now is that dads want to be with more dads. They want to share that experience with other fathers who are going through the similar situations. So there's no comparison within the dads group. There's no judgment. It's all about learning.
You see, obviously I've done all the groups with my children growing up, and they are very female-dominated spaces, and there's lots of support for new mums, but possibly not for dads. And we are seeing more dads who are taking on the caring roles, aren't we?
Loads more dads taking on caring roles. You've got a lot more shared parental leave being taken up now, so that's really working. I think you find that like children's playgroups, stay and plays are quite cliquey environments for mums and dads. So no one really has a great experience there, unfortunately. But there is that sort of like that large number of dads spending time with their children in set environments. So
and the importance of that bonding, you got the Royal Seal of Approval, didn't you, in January?
Yeah, Princess Kate came over. She said what we're doing is extraordinary. And we're really pleased to hear that. It's all about UNESCO looking at the first 1,000 days of a child's life. That's when all the neurons fire off in the brain, when they learn to pick something up or to speak, and building that energy, building that sense of self and the relationship between the parents and the child then, it sets them up for life.
Thank you so much for coming in. And we are seeing so many more dads at the school day 8. My husband definitely does lots of the childcare, so I think the tides are turning a bit, aren't they?
LeedsDads.org.
Great. Thanks so much, Errol. Good to see you. Now there are just 4 days to go until the King's coronation, which will see Charles III crowned in a symbolic ceremony along with Camilla, the Queen Consort. Royal superfans, you've guessed it, they've already started camping out in London, but all this week we're going to focus on some people from Yorkshire who are invited guests. Let's start with Pam Abbott from Wakefield. She helps deliver vital supplies throughout the pandemic and is now helping vulnerable people with the cost of living crisis.
My name is Pamela Abbott. I work for Morrison's Supermarkets as a community champion, and I'm lucky enough to be invited to the King's coronation on the 6th of May, and I'm super excited, really proud to be there and really looking forward. I've been supporting the food banks for quite a few years now, especially during COVID, when people and the community were really struggling. We looked after our community, and it was really, really important, and it was a really, really busy time of my life. Hi Leslie, how are you doing?
Good, thank
you. All right? Good.
Yes,
nice to see you. Yeah. Pasta sauces, yeah. Some bit of clothing for any children, vegetables, some juice, drinks. For the event, I've chosen a dress, a navy dress. It's really relaxing on. It's got a bit of a flair to it, so I could do a twirl if I was asked to do a twirl. Wearing it, I feel so comfortable, and that's part of how I want to make the day. So I'm comfortable, relaxed, taking the moment of the event. Just to let you know, if there's anything else that you need that I might be able to support you with, then please don't hesitate to give me a ring. I'm really feeling excited, a bit nervous to be honest, but I'm sure once I get to London, once I get sat in the Westminster Abbey with everybody else, then I'm sure I'll be relaxed.
Oh, you will. You'll be excited, I hope. What an amazing experience. And fingers crossed the weather's going to hold out, so Pam's hair stays all intact. What do you reckon, Paul?
Well, it's looking a bit iffy, I have to say. It does look really unsettled as we head into the weekend. A bit warmer, though, but with really quite a high risk of some downpours breaking out. Anyway, we'll keep you with the forecast over the next couple of days. Let me just show you a couple of pictures that you've sent in which describes the weather that we've had over the last couple of days. That's a lovely one near Huddersfield, Farnley Tyres. And the second one, easterly winds, nobody on the beach. It's hardly a surprise. The North Sea's only 9 degrees. Hopefully a bit more sunshine, but that easterly wind will be with you along the coast for the next few days. Something warmer, though, into the weekend. Keep the pictures coming in on Twitter, Instagram and on the Weather Watcher website. So I suspect tomorrow will be a bit brighter than today. There'll be more sunshine, hopefully less cloud around. All parts will be dry. This is an interesting looking weather chart because we look down to the southwest. This front will bring rain on Thursday night, then introduce warmer air, but really quite unstable air from the southwest. And it does mean showers and even 1 or 2 thunderstorms will break out Friday and into the bank holiday weekend. Now you can see the extent of the cloud on the latest satellite picture. It's just been thinning a little bit, so we've seen some sunshine, especially across parts of South and West Yorkshire. I think as we head through the course of the night, it looks dry with broken cloud, and where you get some decent breaks, it's certainly going to be quite chilly. We're looking at lowest temperatures around 3 or 4 degrees. Tomorrow's high water times in Bridlington at around about 4:03 and 9 minutes past 4. So tomorrow looks dry and bright, variable cloud. I think the best of the sunshine first thing across South Yorkshire. This is mostly medium and high cloud, so it means sunshine will be quite hazy at times. But as I say, it should be altogether brighter compared with today. Best temperatures inland, 15 degrees, but a good deal cooler along that east coast. Amy, that's the forecast.
I think Pam should take a brolly, don't you?
I do indeed.
Well, that's it from us. We will be back with your late news at 10:30 this evening. I hope you'll join us then. And also, let us know any plans you've got for the coronation. Send them in to us. We might turn up to your party. You never know. That's it from us. Bye-bye.